Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and welcome to another program by Japan Society of Northern California. I'm Steve Pollack, President of Japan Society of Northern California, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Today, we're really excited to have some specialists in the Japanese real estate market. If you are like me, your social media feed may be finding lots of materials from folks who are advertising unbelievably cheap houses in Japan. And we happen to have some experts in that market. Uh, Today, we're going to be hearing from our guests, Take Kurosawa, Joey Stockermans, and Eric Burrow of Akiya Mart. They have an online business and some other businesses too that they're going to tell us about that all relate to the abandoned property market in Japan. If you don't know the word Akiya, that means an abandoned house in Japan. And so they're going to tell us all about it. And since they have already done a number of these kinds of presentations, I'm going to just turn it right over to them without giving you any more introduction so they can tell us about themselves and tell us about their story, how they got into this business, and answer some of our questions about what it's like to purchase real estate in Japan. So, Joey and Take, Eric, do you want to take it over and share
Yeah.
your slides?
Okay, cool. Can
Let me also
everyone?
say, as we go, please feel free to share any questions you have in the chat. We're going to have a presentation by uh, Joey, Take, and Eric, and then that will be followed by a Q&A that I will lead for a few minutes, and then we'll open it up to questions from the floor. But if you give us your questions through the chat, we can get those queued up and ready to go when we move to that section. So thanks.
Cool. Can everyone see my slides? Throw a thumbs up if yes. Cool. We are good. Okay. We will send this slide deck out also, I think, at some point. So feel free. We're going to go through quite quickly through this, but thank you guys, everyone, for having us. Steve and team, thank you for having us as well. We're calling in from Santa Cruz, California. Got the entire team here. So born and raised in the Bay Area myself. Teams spread out across the world. So we know a lot of you guys are calling in from different places. So first off, thank you for being here. Okay, just to kind of start off again, my name's Take, joined by Joey and Eric. We are the AkiyaMart team. This whole story got started back actually in college. Joey and I went to ICU in Mitaka in Tokyo, where we first met. Since then, we went different ways and we both worked in tech. Joey as a software engineer and myself as a real estate agent and recruiter. We were both, fortunately, I guess, laid off in 2023 with a lot of tech layoffs happening. And we were very frustrated with the Japan or real estate market in our home countries. Again, born and raised from Saratoga. I don't think I can ever dream of really buying a house in Saratoga. So we were both frustrated with the housing prices and decided, hey, we'd seen a lot about abandoned homes in Japan. Let's go ahead and do it. Joey and I have limited Japanese knowledge, but we wanted to buy something in a country we loved. And we didn't know too much about it, but we jumped in head first. We're gonna go over a couple of our properties to get started off, and then Eric actually recently joined our team. He's gonna talk a little bit about his properties, and then we'll talk about the home buying process and kind of open up to Q&A. Okay. Oops, sorry, went the wrong way. Oop, that's right.
So this is the first look at the outside of the house in Beppu. So the very first house that Take and I purchased. And both of us spent a lot of time in Japan in our childhood. I went to high school in Shizuoka, and Take spent summers there for many years. And really, for me, this house was a reason to go back to Japan once a year, every year for the rest of my life. That's a lot of the reason why I got excited about this and why we decided to buy a house in Japan when we both got laid off from our jobs. I feel like the drive to revisit Japan and a reason to go back every year in my life, it was very important to me. And so this is our first property. A little bit a dart at a map when we picked Beppu, but big hot spring town, and Taki and I both love hot springs, and we kind of just wanted to make something happen. So we moved forward with this particular property. It was a little bit spooky when we first bought it. Squatty potty toilet, kind of like a dark and dingy, musty smelling room. Honestly, I thought that we made a big mistake the first night that we saw this property. Our goal all along was to, again, like I said, have a reason to come back to Japan once a year, every year. But on top of that, Take has a lot of Airbnb experience, and we really wanted to try making this a vacation rental while we're not in the country. So the whole sort of design, as you see on the next slide, was going to be kind of thinking about that Airbnb picture. We put really beautiful This is like a 3 meter long table. It's quite large, black tatami, kind of a sunken living room. So we put a lot of effort into the design of this house and went pretty custom, which is not what we did with our later projects. But again, this is still my favorite project out of them all, and I really love spending time here. We did not make a mistake in the end, even though day one it felt like it. This is a really fun project, and the property I look forward most to going back and spending time in.
We've sent about another 40K in renovation costs, and it's honestly taken a really long time, maybe a year ish, and it's a continual problem, but it's a lot of fun. So this was a very DIY route that not everyone needs to go. As I'll show you in the next slide, as we made our business, we found a need to be in Tokyo more often. So we bought another house in Tama, which is about 40 minutes west of central Tokyo. This property, higher price point, again, 110K, but the lot was quite big, and we saw that it was probably a good home base for us. Again, price was higher on this, but we had actually bought this from a real estate company who had done a light flip on it. So a lot of prefab units, so prefab shower unit, prefab kitchen unit. If you don't have a strong desire to go custom, going these prefab units are a really, really good option. You get them out of the box and they work, and there's a warranty on them. But this company came in and they did a light flip, put vinyl flooring. The big key here that we missed is insulation. Insulation is a very hit or miss thing in Japan. For most of these houses that you are looking at, don't count on them having insulation. It is super hot in the summer and super cold in the winters, unfortunately. And that's something we're going to have to do at some point. But note, you're looking at these flips, pre-flipped homes, a lot of them don't have insulation. Our goal with this one is to make it more of a midterm rental for digital nomads. So we were able to get a car. We got license plate 777, jackpot. So we were able to purchase a car. We are renting this out more on a monthly basis to folks who want to be in Tokyo, but not in the hustle bustle. And finding that there's a pretty big demand for that market in Japan, and a little bit less of the maintenance of doing short-term rentals and having guests come in and out of your unit. Okay.
Moving forward, things for Taka and I at this point quickly snowball. This is property number. We're skipping property number 3 here. We're moving straight to property 4. At the moment, we have 6 properties, so things really snowballed very quickly for us. A few interesting things there's interesting things about all the properties, but this one, the price tag is just so low. We were really excited about, just like, it's a $3,000 house, which is crazy to tell people. More interesting about this house than the price tag is its location. So we started seeing through our website a ton of people asking to buy in this specific area, Myoko. It just gets a ton of snow each year. I think it's like, behind Niseko, it could be number 2 or number 3 in terms of like top ski destinations in Japan. So this property, we were really excited to grab something for this price point in that neighborhood.
Cool. And shout out, we're actually working with one person of the community to hopefully invest and help us redo this. We're planning to demolish this and put a new build. After a lot of deliberation, like, do we try to renovate it? Some of these houses are really just too cooked on the structure to really want to do a full renovation.
Snowfall in this area, I think it averages 50 to 60 feet a season, which is like in Nova Scotia, Canada, where I grew up, it's like 5 feet a season. So
California, we got
10x what I'm used to in Canada.
Cool. Want to pass the ball over to Eric. Again, Eric's one of our newest team members. He was actually one of our first customers that we helped purchase, but Eric's now a good friend. Eric, take it away with your Akiya.
Yeah. So my background, being a contractor in Minnesota, I grew up in northern Japan in Aomori Prefecture, and I had lived there for about 20 years of my life and always dreamed of being able to go back to what I consider home. And I had a meeting with Joey and Take, and they connected me to an agent and everything. Now I have this wonderful property and another one up the street for my sister. And we're in the process of kind of seeing our visa through so we can spend more and more time and go back to a place where we consider home. So it's been a fun journey, I guess you could say. And the other cool feature about it is it's a cheap playground to practice my construction. Because of my construction background, I bought it a little bit lesser priced Akiya where I could work on Japanese style carpentry and other things like that, and kind of like learn and have an adventure along the way.
Cool. And he's got a sweet car over here too.
Yeah, little Jimmy.
All right, cool. We want to address some of the typical FAQs. Most of you guys maybe know this, maybe some of you guys don't, but it's estimated that Japan has currently around 9 million abandoned homes, with projections of indicating that this could be 23 million by 2030, which would be close to 1/3 of homes in Japan could be abandoned. So there's a big Akiya Mondai, as what they say, and we'll talk about reasons in a little bit. But
Yeah, second thing that we learned on this journey, we're about 2 years in, is that it's difficult to buy as a foreigner. If you're looking to buy a $300,000 home in Tokyo, there's plenty of English-speaking real estate agents that will help you purchase in a city like Tokyo or maybe Kyoto. But as soon as you want to start looking outside of those areas, the economics just don't make sense for the real estate agents. Commissions are just much lower. Foreign buyers can't get a mortgage, so they're buying at on average, lower price point. And then just doing stuff in a second language for them just adds on top of it. So it is very difficult to find good real estate agents that are willing to help you buy a cheaper property anywhere in Japan. These properties do exist, as Take mentioned, 9 million abandoned homes, but for economic reasons, it's and language barrier reasons, it is difficult to buy them.
And then on top of that, you add in the property depreciation schedule. The Japanese government depreciates homes that are built out of wood on a 22-year schedule. So at the end of that, arguably, the home has no value and it's all in the land, which makes it difficult to obtain loans or mortgage for those type of properties.
Yep. Yeah. And last one, no visa restrictions. So there are no, you don't need to have a visa in Japan to purchase. You, as a foreigner, purchase with the same rights as a Japanese national, which is like I didn't know that. So I myself, going on a tourist visa, I spend maybe four months a year in Japan, plus or minus a month. And I go on, again, my US passport, and me and Joey both do not have visas, but Joey is working on it right now.
Yeah, you can buy a house and register cars in your name in Japan on a tourist visa.
Okay, cool. So the next question we typically get is, why are there so many Akiyas? I'm just going to blow through these, and Eric and Joey fill in more information. But biggest one, aging demographic. 1 in 10 people in Japan are 80 or above. You have probably heard it. So quite old of a population, plus a declining birth rate, very, very low birth rate. And the population, you probably heard this, is on the decline. One of the interesting things is the domestic preference for new versus used. When we first started buying our first property, all my friends in Tokyo were like, what are you guys doing? Like, that thing's like worth nothing. And it's like, for me coming from California, like, give me, whoa, no way, 2,000 square foot spot in a nice place, walkable to ramen, like, no way, that's worth something. So a lot of the folks in Japan don't see value in these old homes, and I'm not sure, could be marketing that Japan home builders want you to buy something new or a new car or stuff like that.
Continuing on with kind of like the economics behind it, the problem is definitely more acute in the countryside, and there's just a lack of jobs in the countryside. Every young person that I know in Japan works in Tokyo. It's just that it's where the jobs are in the maybe top 5 main cities. So difficult to find a job and live in rural communities as a young person in Japan at the moment. And then on top of that, a lot of banks won't issue mortgages or lend you money to buy some of these older homes again. So economics coming into play.
Eric, anything else we missed there?
I think you guys got it.
Nice. Okay, take it away, Joey.
Cool. Yeah, very briefly. So along this journey, Take and I started looking for property in Japan, and we're using Japanese websites and Google translating them over and over, and it was difficult to send listings back and forth to each other. So I ended up creating a simple tool at that time to help us browse for properties, pre-translate stuff, and help me and Take share properties we're finding between ourselves. And it was just so fun. It was so much fun to pan around on this map and start looking at properties that we both kind of got more and more excited about this as like a real website that we would share with other people. And we're about 2 years into it now. Really, our goal here is to kind of be like a Zillow or Redfin for Japanese real estate built for Westerners. So the language of the website is in English right now, and the default is US dollars, but you can change the currency if you want to see it in a different currency. But that's the goal here. Really just trying to provide a simple and intuitive map interface and pre-translated and pre-converted dollar amounts. At the moment, at any given time, we have about 500,000 listings, and right now we've got maybe about 1.5 million listings total that we've had come through our website, about 3 million monthly views, and as of very recently, about 20,000 members and about 2,000 subscribers.
Yeah, it's been really cool that we really built this for ourselves. So we found about 3 or 4 of our properties via AkiyaMart, and like it's great that we built it for ourselves, but it's awesome to see other people really using it. So please check it out. We'll provide a promo code. One last thing on this I want to mention is I'm really excited about the data that we're seeing on just like trends. Where are people looking? What are up and coming markets? I think this data is not available in Japan, and something we're excited to see. What prefectures on the rise, or where are people looking or liking, or what are people liking?
A lot of cool analytics. Yeah, we've only scratched the surface there so far,
Yeah.
but
Cool. Now we want to quickly glance over our purchasing process. So we launched our site again, January 2024. We had a ton of people reach out like, how do I buy? How do I buy? Obviously as the next step. So we created a purchasing process called AkiyaMart Direct. I won't go fully into it. We have free webinars and consultations if you want to go in depth, but high level, we can help you buy remotely, all in English, and I think very efficiently at this point after going through the process ourselves so many times. We try to adapt a lot of the real estate agent practices we have in the US and some of the technology into this process. In Japan, unfortunately, they still use fax machines often, even floppy disks, even once in a while, which is surprising. So we're really trying to bring a tech forward approach here. High level with our program is we match you with one of our 8 bilingual agents on the ground in Japan. We can help you buy anywhere and everywhere, or sorry, anywhere and any price. That was one of the things Joey mentioned before. A lot of these agents aren't motivated to help you buy that $5,000 Akiya. As you can imagine, commission's not a lot for that, and you got to drive out there. There could be all these issues. So what we do is we do charge a $5,000 fee. We give a majority of that back to the agent just to make sure that they're paid for their time. An average real estate deal takes about 40 to 50 hours, and it's a lot of niche work that personally, paperwork-wise, we don't want to do ourselves. We aren't the only ones. We're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. But again, we built this program for yourselves. So if you are interested in purchasing a property, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll talk about that more later. And on average, it takes about 3 months to buy start to finish. It can definitely move faster. It can definitely move slower. One of the big inhibitors is you never know what kind of seller agent you'll get if they're very, very traditional. They've been doing it a certain way for so long. We have to be very mindful that we're coming in with the buyer's agent and we want to get you this house ultimately. Okay. After we do help you purchase the house, we do have post-purchase partners. So we get a lot of questions like who's going to maintain it? Who's going to help do renovation? So we have 3 folks here. We have Dio over at Nostal Homes who does Airbnb licensing and management. We have John over at MailMate who does a lot of digitized mail. Mail is a big pillar of importance in Japan and receiving mail. He does a lot of that digital mail stuff. And lastly, we have Yoshi over at Akiya Air who can help do renovations. We work with all these folks in different capacities, but just know that there are folks that can help you once you do buy an Akiya if you want to be a little bit more hands-off. Okay.
cool. So far, with the program Take just described, we've helped over 60 people purchase vacation homes, permanent residencies, and other Airbnbs that they're vacation rentals in Japan. Here's some happy customers, some really cool homes. Top right is like a really fantastic lodge. One of our clients bought in, I think, Nagano area. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of people, excited about the space too.
Okay. Now the big question, who should buy and who shouldn't buy? I'm going to pass this to you, Eric. Who should buy and who shouldn't buy?
I think right off the bat, I like to think that going for a vacation property or a new adventure in life is like a big motivation. I know when I dreamed of ownership and then pulled the trigger, it was really kind of a surreal moment. And I've talked to other people that have bought other places, and they say it's surreal on the first international property for sure. So I think if you're just looking to have that adventure in life and a new chapter in your book, it's a really good reason.
I think that just to answer the question as well, I think that what's really helped throughout this whole kind of Akiya journey that I've been on with Take was if you enjoy spending time in Japan, I don't think you can go wrong. For example, like there's been a lot of very, paperwork intensive moments or moments where it felt like, okay, we have to start putting a lot more energy into this project, a lot more time, money, energy. What I'm trying to say is like, there's highs and lows with this whole process. It is a little bit like an adventure. Our first property kind of felt like we were camping inside. First thing we did was like fumigate for bed bugs, Dani, in the tatami mat. So there's highs and lows, and it's an adventure and can feel like camping sometimes. And if you love Japan enough that you find that exciting just to go to the hardware store and figure out how to get rid of the dani in your tatami mats. Like that kind of like day-to-day activity in Japan, if you enjoy that, I don't think there's any way you can go wrong on this journey. It has been such a rewarding and exciting thing to do in life that if you love Japan, I think you can't go wrong, is who I think should buy.
Yeah, just to echo what everyone said here, it's been a ton of fun, but it hasn't been perfect all along. Joey and I have still not taken a shower once in our Beppu spot because the shower is consistently broken. We use a squatty toilet for a couple months. So there's a lot of adventure, but it's been, it's exciting. Ultimately, though, I do really recommend that you don't look too hard at this as like a pure numbers investment. It's really a lifestyle investment. And we want to make sure that we are bringing people who want to contribute to the community versus just juice it for, Airbnb returns or whatnot. So that being said, though, there's a fine balance, but ultimately recommend if you want to spend more time in Japan, this is has been such a fun experience for us. And I think most people feel the same way. Okay. All right. Let's, couple projects we're working on that we just want to share if anyone is interested in.
Cool. Little bit of a brainstorm session. So up next are two projects Taki and I are looking to get started on, hopefully this year. And first one is a laundromat. So one thing that we've been excited about recently is that not only is real estate quite affordable in Japan for the given, 5 different reasons that we mentioned before, but the same thing is happening in small businesses in Japan. So there's many small businesses that are without successors and they're selling for what I would consider quite cheap. So I think that we're excited about that too. I think some real cool possibilities from that is the possibility of a business manager visa if you were to purchase a small business in Japan and then self-sponsor yourself to get some sort of immigration status in the country. I think is really cool. I just think a laundromat is a really fun project, and cash business could be fun as well. So this is something that we're looking at. I see laundromats trading at about 1 to 2x multipliers right now, anywhere between $50,000 US to $100,000, $200,000. So that's about what I'm seeing.
Next project we're working on is, again, Joey and I are both big surfers. Just got back from my bachelor party surf trip in Indonesia, actually. And we were discussing like, man, it'd be awesome to have a surf house. So that's our next project. We were actually recently approached by someone in Hyuga in Miyazaki for a surf property. It's like an old school, and you can see on the right here, it's like highlighted in such a cool location. So this is something we're working on, maybe as making like an executive retreat or an incubator. Are looking for folks, if you are interested in this property, looking for folks to partner with. Okay. Very last plug. We are going to be in Palo Alto tomorrow. I know many of you guys are dialing in from California, hopefully. So we're going to be down in Palo Alto at the Japan Innovation Campus doing a quick happy hour, kind of similar presentation, to be honest, but be more casual, a little bit longer, and have some time to talk over some beers. So feel free to stop by. We'll send out the Luma link at the end. And then very last thing, thank you guys so much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at contact@akiya-mart.com. Also, we have a promo code. If you are interested in trying out our website, we have a subscription model where AkiyaMart Pro will unlock all your listings, Airbnb filters, tsunami filters, stuff like that. Please use promo code NorCal for $15 off. That'll either get you your first month free or $15 off a year subscription. So, yeah, that's it from us. Thank you so much, Steve. Anything we missed there?
All right, guys. Well, that's great. I'm ready to sign up and buy my property. In fact, I changed my background, as you can see, to a picture of an Akiya that I wandered past when I was in Japan. In fact, I think my Google Photos are filled with dozens of pictures of Akiya in Japan. And so, I guess one question is, I still am having a little bit of trouble getting over this idea that you can buy a house for $2,500 that is not some kind of hairball of, conflicts, legal conditions, delayed taxes, something like that. So can you just tell us, like, what are some of the complications that, really affect the market price of these houses that, you're listing and that, people, talk about in Japan?
Yep. I'll go off the bat. Like, first, the exchange rate. I think everyone knows that the exchange rate has gone up and down. Joey and I studied abroad about, like 15 years ago. It was like $1 to 70 yen when we studied abroad as cheap students. I was like, that was tough. Anyways, exchange rate contributes to the fluctuation in a lot of these prices. Again, we're at close to 1 to 140 or 150 at this point. But yeah, I think that.
I would also say ballpark closing costs in Japan. Your two main closing costs are going to be title transfer fees. So you need a somewhat a judicial scrivener, kind of like a lawyer in Japan, to handle that. Usually around $2,000, and then bare minimum commission is going to be about two to $3,000. So I do say ballpark. Throw on like $5,000 to $7,000 onto any property you see, and that'll more or less cover your closing costs.
Yeah, and one thing I know we've showed like, hey, we got this house for super cheap, but it takes time, I think, to be in the market. We didn't get that off the bat. They probably aren't too many on AkiyaMart. It took time for us to get in the market, start making connections. People would start being like, okay, these guys are, legit. They want to buy this property. They're not going to be a problem. That's when a lot of these off-market deals really started coming towards us. So I'd say the advice I give folks is buying your first property in Tokyo, or sorry, in Japan, is going to be probably like a B minus. There's so many opportunities, but none of them are going to, check all the boxes, I'd say.
Anything to add, Eric? Before I have two more cents to add, but
As far as the closing costs, I was going to add is the cool part is the insurance. I guess I get excited about the insurance cost. And it's still a cost, but for $500 a year, my property's insured for $200,000 worth of rebuild. So I'm like, for earthquake and fire, which is like a screaming deal compared to California.
Yeah, and that's something we can set you guys up with.
Eric, you get involved, especially on the contractor side. So is there usually a lot of work that needs to be done in order to be able to inhabit one of these houses, or are some of them just like ready to move in ready? I mean, it looked like some of your photos.
I think it
was
fits the
ready.
full breadth of
Mhm.
complete teardown all the way to turnkey. You can really find my place at 26,000 was a little older, a little dated or aged, but it was definitely like slept there the first night, and I moved out of the hotel and I liked it better than the hotel room. So yeah.
some
Great.
some of the things we look for, Steve, right away, like me and Take will look for. The two biggest things is like, how does the roof look? Like I've heard a roof repair can be anything like 2 to 3 million yen, which is like $20,000.
Mm.
So how does the roof look? Do you see any like water stains on the ceilings of the second floor? I think that's one of the first things we look for. And then squishy floors. Like for some reason, the floors get really squishy over time. So just Take almost fell through a floor once. So
And you mentioned insulation. So are there other kind of common
insulation.
known, are there, I mean, I think we've all seen, the money pit or other, real
Yeah.
estate horror stories. Are there other things that people should be aware of that are kind of typical issues for buying an abandoned house in Japan?
I think, yeah, installation probably being a big one. If you really do plan to spend year round there, you're going to need to upgrade the installation, double pane the windows. Sometimes there are city subsidies as well that can help you, I guess, fund this.
Mhm.
Other than that, I'd
How
say,
close you are to the neighbors. So again, insulation with no insulation in the house. And if you're very, sometimes the homes we've looked at, they're like a foot to like 3 feet away from the neighbor's house. With you hear a lot of domestic sounds in those type of buildings. So just know, like if you're playing music, your neighbors are going to hear it because you can hear their TV and that kind of thing. So just I also think like proximity to your neighbors is something to consider as well.
and
So you bring up another point, which I was wondering about is, if we here in San Mateo or Palo Alto had a bunch of abandoned houses and all of a sudden we saw floods of Japanese people coming in and buying property and kind of fixing them up or not fixing them up and playing their loud music or whatever they wanted to do, that might not be received so well in the neighborhood. What do you find with regard to, Japanese people in the immediate environs of uh, Akiya that have been purchased and or occupied, renovated by somebody not from Japan?
yeah, and I think that's one of the big things with our purchasing process. We will turn people away if we really feel like they're set up for failure here. I think we're trying to do at least our part to screen a little bit and make sure that the person we're helping through the purchase process wants to be there for genuine reasons. We've had a lot of people like, "Hey, I want a free house in Japan. I've never been there." We're like, "Okay, you're not the right fit." So I guess we do want to make sure that the people that we're helping are going to be contributing to the community. With
Mhm.
that, some of the basic advice we give is like always bring omiyage, wherever you're from. Eric brought like these handmade butcher blocks. Eric, I mean, talk a little bit about your neighbor experience.
Oh, my neighbor experience was wonderful. Like they stopped by to welcome me to the neighborhood, and I spent like 4 hours drinking butterfly tea on tatami mats with my neighbors, just talking about like almost all of life. But yeah, brought them some handmade cutting boards and stuff like that, and make sure I had gifts for everybody. So, and it seemed like
Gift
it was
exchange.
extremely welcoming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And looking at your inventory, there clearly are a lot of places that are in the boonies, Niigata, rural Kyushu, Shikoku, what have you. And those places have a certain charm for some people, but there are also a lot of listings in Tokyo and Kyoto and Yokohama and other places. So
Mhm.
with regard to kind of the inventory that you see and how people are purchasing property, where are people really finding, having success with their purchase journey?
Yeah, I'll take a first stab. I think one of the first questions if someone comes to us and goes like, "Where should I buy in Japan?" We throw the homework back onto them. I think there's so many, as many people know, there's so many awesome places in Japan. We're down in Kyushu, Eric's up in Niigata, but I think general trends we see are people really like Japanese snow. A lot of Australians love the snowy regions. Is probably the one of the biggest learnings for me, but.
I agree with that. I think the exciting thing about property in Japan is the range of climates you get. You can have a very snowy area, you can have a mountainy area, you can have a drier area, you can have coastline. There's so many different types of environments you can live in Japan, which I find very exciting. I think personally that Take is right. Snowy areas are the hot. Everyone seems to be buying the snowy areas right now. I think areas like Wakayama, the Shikoku region, have fantastic coastline there, and those are the properties seem to be cheapest there, and the slow stay on market for longer. So I think those are definitely undervalued.
Mhm.
What about
I
you?
was gonna add that I grew up in Aomori and I spent time in Okinawa, and I think we could all sell our own areas where we have places because you fall in love with that region. Niigata, my neighbor has palm trees and tropical, trees and foliage, but yet we get dumped on with snow. And I think it's just a really unique part of the world where you can have snow and palm trees in the same existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I think if you're thinking about it maybe with a little bit more of an investor mindset, some ideas that Tuck and I have tossed around is like find something that people travel to Japan for. For example, there's like phenomenal pilgrimage hiking trails, the Nakasendo and Kuma no Kodo. I think like buying property where people are traveling in rural Japan already, I think is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
So you've said that you don't need to have a particular visa or permit as a foreigner to buy property. What about Japanese language? Can you go in there if you don't speak any Japanese and actually complete a transaction, remodel a house, fill out all the paperwork? I mean, I have trouble filling out paperwork in English, so I have to imagine that there's some challenges to that.
You want me to take that one?
Go
Because
go for it,
I'm
Eric.
most experienced in that one. Um, my Japanese is lacking. So that's why it is. I mean, I lived there 20 years, but near a military base. So I kind of had that crutch of you didn't have to learn if you didn't want to. And it was my formidable years where I was resistant. But that's why I purchased in Niigata on purpose to force myself to accelerate my language learning. But I'm working with a number of tradespeople to do renovations on my place, from my bathroom to my tatamis to my shoji doors, with my limited Japanese skills. I mean, like I can order food and get by at like restaurants, but I definitely can't fill out kanji laden forms. So yeah, I
It
think it's
definitely.
easy to. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Joey and I too are not both fluent. I can read some. Joey's better at speaking, but we can generally understand and communicate with neighbors. But one thing we really want to emphasize, if you're buying a property, it is so helpful to find someone on the ground who can be a translator. No matter how advanced our Japanese is, we're not like talking to contractors, just a whole different language. It's a whole different language in English even. So, we really do rely on a couple of folks on the ground. We've just made friends with neighbors. We've asked them, hey, do you mind helping us talk to this contractor? We'll pay you an hourly rate. So we've gotten them by just kind of by being friendly and asking people. Of course, there's Google Translate, and ultimately, though, everyone's quite eager to talk to you. I feel like, and as long as you are open and want to again, talk to folks, it will end very well, I think.
So this being the Japan Society, I'm also very interested in kind of the cultural experience of real estate purchase. I mean, I think if you
Mhm.
bought a house in Palo Alto or San Francisco and you went and told somebody in St. Louis or, who knows, Mobile, Alabama or someplace like that, they would say, "What? That's crazy. Like how did you manage, like why did you have to, submit like your childhood pedigree in order to convince the person that you really wanted to be the, the perfect owner or whatever. What are some of the big cultural differences you've noticed in the purchase price and kind of the real estate transaction process dealing in Japan that people who may have bought a house or thought about buying a house here in the States would find different or interesting?
Yeah, I think the big one is just like the process moves a lot slower. There's a lot more formality, there's a lot more paperwork. Again, we are here to help kind of simplify that so you don't have to sit through these Japanese meetings for hours. The money transfer process is a little bit different. There's no escrow service Japanese typically use. Maybe for a super luxury, but for Akiyas, no escrow services. We typically recommend folks transfer to our agent's brokerage. But yeah, those are the two ones. Yeah, go ahead, Joey.
I think the negotiation is interesting. So definitely catch more bees with honey, I feel is the right move here, especially on older properties where, someone has lived in this house for the past 40, 50 years of their life. You don't want to come in and start pointing out everything that you think is wrong and why you want to like knock the price down on them, because they're just not going to be receptive to that. This is someone's home that they've loved for a long time. So I think definitely coming in with a good attitude about how you're going to carry on you love this house so much, you want to, do right by the previous owner and really love it and put in a lot of hard work to return it to its original shine, I think is a great negotiation tactic. The second thing on negotiating is that lowball offers are not well received. Taki and I have tried it. They will just see you as a unreasonable person and not want to do business with you. So I think it's not like you start at a low offer and then they'll counter and then you counter. It doesn't work like that. You do need to be a lot more reasonable with when you try to negotiate. You can get, we've seen, 10 to 15% off before is not unreasonable. But again, it's difficult to go lower than that with and not burn a bridge.
Mhm. Great. Well, the other thing before we open to questions from the audience is you guys are, very entrepreneurial. You saw an opportunity in something that you had a personal experience with, and yet you have not limited yourself to doing Akiya, but now you're looking at coin laundries and, doing Airbnb and, utilizing your property and as a midterm rental for, digital nomads. So where are you thinking your best opportunity lies and kind of how are you thinking about your entrepreneurial journey? Like why have you branched off into some of these other pursuits when, you could just focus on your real estate listing and facilitation service?
Yeah, I think the short answer is it's a lot of fun. Me and Joey are really following where we feel passionate about. Like, again, we're both surfers and we're like, want to be surfing Japan more often. I think a lot of this, we've met a lot of friction with this and we're like, no way, there's got to be a better way. So to some degree, we feel like we're in a unique position that we can make some of these processes better or demystify a little bit of the unknown. Like folks in Japan who, Eric, for example, like, it's not well advertised that you as a foreigner can buy in Japan. So there's some of these things that's been quite interesting. It's been a lot of fun, and we've had a ton of awesome customers and feedback from folks. So it feels right, I think, is the short answer from me.
Hey, just to tag on my 2 cents, I do agree with you, Steve. Sometimes I am worried about should we focus more, because I just think there's so much to be excited about, and I think that spending time back in Japan now at where I am at in life, I see so much opportunity. And I think that is the real exciting thing. I want to try so many different things. So I do think it is about focusing, but I think in the like sort of foreigner market looking towards Japan, I do think there's so many different industries that have a lot of opportunities in it. So I think we just get excited.
Great. Well, it's very inspiring and fun to hear about. I actually, as you can see from my background, I forgot to mention I did come across this house, and one of the things that I noticed was like all the stuff that people leave behind in some of these houses. Like, what do you do with all the things that you encounter, personal possessions and things like that in some of these houses?
Eric?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
You keep what you love, We had to sort through a lot of stuff, and there was just a lot of things that it's just kind of like plastic trash, if you will, like plastic bins and stuff like that. But I hired a guy to take away the bulk of the trash. But there was a lot of it that we got to keep, and that was really unique and fun. And then we met the original owners as well, and she also gifted us like a kimono to hang up on the wall and a bunch of other cool things where we like they were happy to see the renovations that we were doing on the home. And yeah, because it had been in their family for like 150 years, and we came in and we're restoring it. So
Yeah,
Great.
trash is a big issue in Japan, and not, I mean, also just going through places, we want to be sensitive, but it's also impossible for us to keep, a lifetime's worth of goods that we don't know about in some of these properties. So we don't have a perfect solution, but also trash is also very, very difficult to sort and get rid of in Japan. So challenges ahead for us to figure out.
Great. Well, let's turn it to the audience. We've got a ton of questions that have been coming in, and so I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to everybody, but I'm gonna call on some folks, and if you're still on the call, and you could unmute and then ask your question, we'll go ahead and do that. And first up, I'm gonna ask Darren Gietzel. You had a couple of questions about kind of the renovation process and where you can get materials for if you're really a DIYer who wants to kind of renovate a house. So do you want to ask your question?
Sure. So I've renovated a few houses. My wife is actually Japanese American, so she can speak to people. But is there like a Home Depot or something there? Are inspectors difficult to work with? And
Ooh,
it,
good question.
I love the hardware stores in Japan. There's definitely Home Depots.
they're Home Depot's times 10. They're better. Like, yeah, the wood is better. Yeah, and the quality of service is just phenomenal. So
and are the inspectors hard? Like I saw you taking up floors and putting in,
yeah,
concrete concrete foundations, posts.
if you're not doing any exterior walls, it seems like you're not changing like the structural integrity of the home. There's really no permit required.
Oh,
Mm.
Great. I've got another question from Awit. Do you want to ask your question? This is kind of a softball for you guys. Are you still on the call, Awit?
We love softballs, hardballs too. They're the hardballs also. Curveballs,
Spitballs.
spitballs.
Okay, well, I'll just read it. The question is, how can I get involved with your projects?
Yeah, so shoot us an email at contact@akiya-mart.com. It goes directly to Joey and I, so we will get back to you. We might make a form, but for now, I'm not sure how many people are on the call, but feel free to just shoot us an email. We will get back to you soon. But yeah, a couple cool projects, not fully formed, and we're still working on them. But you shoot us an email is the short answer.
Do they get a copy of the slides?
Yeah, we'll send a copy of the slides to you guys, and then you'll be able to take a look through. But again, feel free to contact us anytime. Contact@akiya-mart.com.
We also will be posting a video of this program on our YouTube channel. Probably take a week or two to get up, but you'll be able to refer to it again if you want to. Gina Minato has a question about taxes. Do you want to ask your question, Gina?
I bet it's what are property taxes? Is that the question?
I'll go ahead and read it. What are some unusual taxes or expenses compared to buying homes in the U.S.? Are they kind of the standard kinds of things we would see here, or are there things that kind of came out of left field for you?
Take can do the comparison with the U.S. I have not bought property in the U.S., but in Japan, property tax is 1.4% of the tax assessed value. And usually, for example, just our own property, our Beppu property was $40,000 to purchase, and I think it was tax assessed at something closer to just under $20,000. And then so we're paying 1.4% of that annually. It works out very small. Our Tokyo property, I think we're paying about $500 a year in property tax, so almost kind of negligible. Additionally, there is something called stamp duty, which is a tax on one of the contracts that you sign, one of the documents. It's very small. It's usually between $10 to $100, but usually it's around 10. And then finally, there's something called acquisition tax, which when you buy a property in Japan, you need to find a tax representative. This is someone that you get set up with the government. Basically, the government is saying someone needs to pay the property tax, and we want a resident of Japan to be the person on the paper that's going to pay the property tax. This is your tax representative. They will get the bill in 6 to 8 months' time after the property purchase, and it's 4% of the assessed value of the home. That's a one-time acquisition tax. So those are all the taxes involved in purchasing a property. Usually, they're quite cheap in the deals we've seen.
Yeah. TLDR there is basically, it's way cheaper than California. The tax assessed value, again, of these older homes, they really just look at the value of the land. So, yeah, again, our Tokyo place, we're paying close to $500 a year in property taxes. And I think that's like way better than what it is in California.
Yeah, I always like to say that my 3,000 square foot place is $200 a year. So,
That's great. Well, that kind of leads to a question from Trista and Angelisa Delcano. Do you want to ask your question?
I think multiple people asked the same question for that one.
Okay, it has to do with buying a home, and if are you also buying the land when you buy a property?
Short answer is typically yes. There's an indicator on our listings that we actually just made a filter for it, leasehold versus freehold. I'd say the majority of the properties you are looking at typically are going to be freehold. Sometimes, if something looks too good to be true, the listing, I think that's a good indicator to look into a little bit more. It might be leasehold, but
Yeah, so I would say if you're looking to buy a house in Tokyo, kind of downtown-ish, it's going to be minimum $150,000 at the moment. If you see a property in Tokyo that's like $40,000, it's usually leasehold. So you're buying the structure and leasing the land from the landlord.
Great. There are a couple of questions which I'll just ask with regard to earthquake proofing in Akiya. A lot of us are, in California we have earthquakes, but I don't think anywhere near the frequency that many places in Japan do. How do you take into consideration earthquake risk and what you need to do to earthquake proof a house? Are the regulations substantially different than what we have here?
Yeah, so 1981 is kind of the key year, 1981 and the year 2000. So Japan had some kind of earthquake building code thing after World War II up to 1981, but no one I've spoken to thinks it was a very serious law at all. So 1981 is really the true like first earthquake building codes in Japan. So a lot of people that I've spoken to would only consider houses built after 1981. That being said, all of the properties me and Tage own are pre that, and we've even spoken to architects who don't believe it makes that much difference anyways, and who live in older homes as well. So if you are concerned, 1981 is when the first building code standard came out. Year 2000 is when it really got beefed up though. So anything built after the year 2000 is going to be very, very good earthquake proofed homes. There's three grades. There's earthquake seismic grade 1 through 3, with 3 being the best and 1 being equivalent to the 1981 standard. That being said, if you do buy an older home, you can get it retrofitted. Usually they'll put some sort of special sheetrock up or more sort of bracings in the corner. I don't know too much about this. Maybe Eric can speak on this, but I also know that there are subsidies available for this as well.
yeah, a big thing that comes is like these tie down brackets in the corners for the framing. And then, like you mentioned, an easier way to kind of meet some of those codes is like an earthquake rated sheetrock. It just seems kind of funny, but it helps with the lateral shifting.
And quick plug, we have a podcast, Buying a House in Japan. We have a couple episodes with architects that we talk about this and with Eric. So if you want more information on the earthquake codes, we have a whole podcast dedicated to it that will hopefully answer your questions.
Great. And here's another softball from Graham. Thanks for joining us today, Graham, from Japan Society of Oregon. Do you have a question? All right, not sure if he's still on, but I will ask him. He wants to know, do you quote on other aspects? Like, do you quote on doing a retrofit or construction, those kinds of things? Do you offer that service if somebody is not buying through you, but wants to get some help with something that they're working on?
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Graham. Sorry.
No worries.
Short answer is we're building the plane as we're flying it. So no, we don't have that service yet. We do have, again, post-purchase partners that can help be the middleman when you're talking to local Japanese contractors. Eric, any thoughts on that? Short answer is no, we don't have that service, but
Yeah,
it's also hard.
yeah, it's very localized.
I am curious, like for a traditional house, that either has something very traditional, ranging from, obviously tatami mats to shoji sliding doors to a thatched roof. Do you have experience with that, or are there people that you have sold to that are looking for something like a 200-year-old farmhouse, those kinds of things? Do they come available also?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of folks looking for kind of the kominka kind of style homes, the ones with the huge wooden beams. I think one of the off the jump, one of the big advice we give is it is very difficult to find those localized, specialized carpenters. They are an older generation that knows how to do these specific, I don't know, Eric can probably talk more about it, but yes, we have helped people buy. They are challenging. They are much bigger projects. Joey and I are, it's on our bucket list to probably do one at some point, but we just don't have the capital and energy. They're big projects, but we have a couple folks that we've talked to and helped who have purchased. One person is actually interested in picking one up and moving it to a different area, which is a whole big project too. But short answer is yes, it's possible. It's just we wouldn't recommend it as your first purchase in Japan. I'd say like do something a little bit easier just to get a home base, and then if you see a kominka down the road that you're really interested, that's maybe a good time to think about it. But Eric, thoughts on kominkas?
I love them. I mean, like you look at them and you just fall in love, right? There's that historic beauty and charm. But yeah, not a first time go around. But
You have to hone your carpentry skills for that.
yeah, and be very
Maybe an
comfortable.
8-year apprentice or something like that before you can set up for
Yeah.
that.
Just a final note on kominkas. Sometimes we do see some pretty incredible properties. We got invited to attend an auction for like a samurai residence up in Ishikawa Prefecture earlier this year. We didn't bid on the house in the end, but I think the bidding start. This is like a I don't know, World Heritage site, and the bidding started at $40,000 US for this samurai house. So
It was messed up by the
was a
earthquake, though. It was like really
huge
messed up.
compound.
Yeah.
All right. Alex V, are you still online? Do you have a question for our guests?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, thanks for taking the time for this. Yeah, my question was, so say someone was interested in buying soon, whatever soon could be, now to a year or whatever, but at the or currently don't have the time to invest in to going there and building things on the property. Is there certain time limits, things happening with like laws that you need to be working on the house or something time sensitive things that one should consider?
there's a new so short answer, no. I don't think there's anything that I can foresee in the near future. There has been some discussion in the diet around so right now Japan doesn't or the government doesn't record the nationality of foreign buyers of real estate in Japan, but there's been some discussion in the diet that they might start tracking that. The idea being they're concerned about I don't know, certain unfriendly citizens of unfriendly countries buying too much property in Japan at the moment. So that's the only thing on my radar. Sorry, the one of two. The other thing is a new law that was passed, I believe, in April of this year around renovating your home. It's still unclear, I would say, and architects we've talked to have kind of told us you can ignore that for now. But the idea is that you need to start pulling permits for large scale home projects, but I think large scale is still pretty large scale. If you're buying like a single family home, I think you fall under the radar. But things to be aware of, there was a law around renovation. For now, it seems like you can ignore it, and potentially some political stuff happening soon.
Yeah, it's
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. We have a question from Karen Francisco. Are you still online? Do you want to ask your question? All right. Maybe not there. So she was mentioning differences between renting, buying something for personal use or for rental purposes. Any comments about kind of pros and cons, or what you should consider if your motivation is different?
Yeah, it goes back to lifestyle investment, I think is a big one. If Joey and I were stressed about having renters in 100% occupancy rate kind of stuff, I think it just wouldn't work. We really use these as getaways, or like I'm going next week to Beppu, and my fiance loves going to Beppu because there's onsens and we have a spot there. So I'd say really look at it as a lifestyle investment first is my recommendation. That being said, we have gone down the route. We've rented one of our properties long-term to a tenant, which has been quite it's been a difficult process, and maybe because it's our first time going through the rental process. So that is an option for you to buy a property and rent it out long term. Just know tenants it's very challenging to get a tenant out of a place. There's a lot of laws to allow tenants to keep renting. So you also can buy properties that are already tenanted if that's kind of something you're interested in.
Great. Well, I see we actually have somebody who I know has worked with you, and he is in fact the person that introduced you guys to me, Elton Satuski. And Elton, if you're still online, do you want to share a little bit about your purchase journey in Japan and kind of what got you excited and kind of what led you to pursue this path?
Maybe he's not here.
I don't think I see him. I'm sorry.
I saw him earlier.
Okay, maybe he dropped already. He had all the answers. Okay. It looks like Jared Kubakawa is has a question. Jared, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we lived in Japan for a long time and are considering buying an Akiya, but through doing some research, we found, even if a home is free or doesn't cost very much, the city comes in and does an evaluation of the house, and you have to pay tax when you move in on whatever they value the house at. The 4% that you mentioned, and then the other 1.5%. And then with renovations as well, we found that actually maybe it's better to not buy an Akiya, but to buy a home, a traditional purchase off like Sumo or one of the things. And yeah, I just wanted to know what you thought about that. And that also the homes don't have any resale value. I mean, if there's going to be 9 million abandoned homes, it's going to be pretty hard to resell it.
And increasing.
Yeah, it's none. So I don't know if it's a good investment, and I wanted to know what you guys thought about that.
I keep hitting on lifestyle investment. That's my angle, but I'll let you guys kind of handle.
So I echo Take as well. For me, a lot of the initial reasoning before this whole journey snowballed and took on a life of its own. Initially, it was to spend more time in the country. I just loved spending time in Japan, had not been back for many years, and wanted a fun project to go on. So yeah, I echo Take. It has been a lifestyle investment. We've started to make some money through renting out our properties, but it's small amounts of money and not not worth the financial risk and work we put in so far. Maybe one day it will be. Anything to add before I go on the taxes?
Go on taxes, yeah.
So I think tax-wise, you might have faced some different rules if you went off like the Sumo websites, et cetera, and started dealing with Akiya banks. I'm not sure if that's what you did. Kind of sounds like it. You might have gone to some government-run program there. I don't have any experience there, so I can't actually speak to that, but maybe they have additional rules associated with it. But in terms of the taxes, that sounds standard. The 1.4% on the assessed value, the 4% acquisition tax, that sounds just standard. The government wants its taxes. In terms of like anything additional that they need to do a home check for you or anything like that, I've never heard of that personally.
Yeah, I don't think they reassess the tax value unless you do a brand new build. I think it's really, as long as you're renovating the inside, you're updating floors, stuff like that. I don't think anyone is mandated to come in and be like, hey, this is actually more expensive than we thought it was. So
you have to change the footprint.
Yeah. Eric, any thoughts?
Yeah, it seems like you have to change the footprint or the foundation for them to do a reassessment to the value. Or like if you have an earthquake and you do a complete rebuild, then they reassess the value.
Great. Jason, do you have a question?
Yeah, g'day guys, how are you? Greetings from very cold New South Wales, Australia. So Mike, I've got two questions. My first question is that if we see an Akiya, like if we go through a different Akiya bank, I'm actually, like what you said, Joey, I'm going through an Akiya, a government-run Akiya bank, looking at purchasing around the Miyako Arai area. If we identify a property, but we can't actually source like an intermediary, can we still come to you guys to facilitate that process?
Short answer, yeah. We're designed to help with any transaction. All our agents are licensed agents in Japan. So short answer is yeah. If you brought us an Akiya bank listing, we could give our best shot. Not saying like it's 100% success rate. Akiya banks, again, sometimes have their own rules. Specifically, if you're like, they will ask and make sure that you want to live there. So there's a couple of things like that. And one also call out is a lot of times, sometimes some of these agents will want to double end the deal where they'll take the buyer's agent commission and the seller's agent commission. So there might be, again, some of these like really Akiya rural areas, they might try to double in the deal. Might be some more fees just to make sure our agent gets paid for their time. But yeah, short answer is we can help. Sometimes there's a little bit of complexity that we have to navigate, though.
Yeah, I am in contact with an intermediary, but he's not very conversive, so I'm sort of struggling in that regard. But and my second question was, do you guys foresee any changes to Minpaku, like Airbnb laws and legislation in the next, say, couple of years?
Joey, can you just talk a little bit about the Minpaku law and what the relevance of that is in case people are not familiar with it?
Yeah, Minpaku laws, essentially short-term rental laws in Japan, extremely complicated, I would say. So there's just very, very high level, two main national laws. There's the Minpaku law, the short-term rental law, and then there's the Hotel and Business Act, I believe. Hotel Act is much older. Minpaku law is much newer, kind of 2018-ish. Those are the national laws. And if it was just limited to those two laws, it would be quite straightforward. The complication is that Japan gave every municipality, prefecture, etc., the ability to slap on their own restrictions. And the complication there is that they've all done it in very different ways. So at the moment, there's about 59 different local laws across Japan, prefectural and city laws across Japan that add additional constraints on. But then there's also laws that reverse those and make it, they open it up. So there's special Minpaku zones, which kind of negate the laws. So it is quite complicated. So I would just say in terms of those laws changing, I think that so none of those laws have changed since they've been created, but I think that it's fair to say there could be new local laws tacked on here and there. So things could change in that respect, but I think once the law's in place, unlikely to change.
Yeah, and one thing I quickly shared on our website, we do have a Minpaku or Airbnb filter. We've been going city by city, just figure out what national laws are. Each city, each prefecture has their own rules, so it is very, very complicated and very nuanced. So something we're coming out soon for our subscribers. So quick plug there.
Yeah, so this will be coming out soon. So one of the big things that you'll hear people say about Airbnb laws in Japan is that there's this, you can only do it for 180 days, 180 days. So that comes from the national law, the Minpaku law. And if it was just that law, again, the life would be simple. But then it's all these ordinances that tack on so many different restrictions in so many different ways. And so what Take is showing there, what we're trying to do is really dumb it down to, can you Airbnb 365 days a year in this neighborhood? Can you Airbnb 180 days? Can you Airbnb 180 days with additional restrictions, or can you not Airbnb at all? So I think I'm highly confident we can dumb it down to simplify to at least that level, and then provide additional explanation once you find a property that you're interested in pursuing. So that was basically my Christmas project, and that has slowly morphed into like a 6-month project. So I thought I could wrap it up over Christmas break. I could not. It's very complicated. Yeah.
Well, we have actually we've gone overtime a little bit. And I have one more kind of softball question for you guys before I close the session. But I also, for people who are on the call and want to stay a few minutes extra, our speakers have agreed to, stay and chat a little bit longer after we formally bring the program to a close. So if you'd like to do that, you're welcome to stay on, and we'll have a little bit more dialogue with Joey, Eric, and Take to answer some additional questions, because we couldn't get to all of them today. But my last question for you guys is, you're not the only one that pops up in my social media feed. There are other, I don't know, social media companies, individuals, I don't know what, but there are lots of people who are posting these kind of crazy pictures of houses and so on in Japan. What is it that makes AkiyaMart different, or why would somebody want to work with you as opposed to one of these other brokers or listers or social media influencers, whoever is sending all these notices my way?
Totally. I mean, by all means, the space is getting very, very popular. I'd say many people can help you through this process. Us ourselves, very simply, we're trying to make a lot of this product for ourselves. We're customer zero on a lot of these things. We find it a lot of fun. We also find the problems very like, why is it like this? Let's try to fix it. So, we might not be the best, but we are making a product, and we're making things like very simplified, specifically from like a tech mindset or California mindset. Again, trying to do this for ourselves. And I think with that, we've learned a ton. We've obsessively thought about this space for the past 2 years every day, I'd say. So yeah,
Obsessively, yeah, for sure. I also think that we have a great product, so I really enjoy searching for property on my on the website. Self plug there. I do think we have a great product, but again, the amount of time Taki and I have invested into understanding the purchase process itself, we are really trying to simplify that process, streamline it, and standardize it. So one of the big things that we came in when we realized is like every single, if you go with a local agent anywhere in Japan, it's gonna be a different process every time you purchase, and we're trying to streamline that, standardize that, and bring more modern technology to the process. So hopefully, very similar to buying a house in America is what we're aiming for.
Great. Well, we really appreciate you coming to our program today, sharing your story. It's, I think, both interesting and inspiring to hear what you've done with, kind of a personal experience looking for a property in Japan and taking that to the next level. Truly a Silicon Valley story for, you had a need and you created a business around it. And so it's interesting from a lot of different levels. And we thank you for sharing your story with us and your time today. For those of you who are here and are not regular visitors to Japan Society, we do a lot of other programs throughout the year. In fact, we did about 70 programs last year of one sort or another. We have one coming up on June 24th on Japanese textiles. One of our most popular speakers, Steve Bimel, who is working to preserve traditional crafts in Japan, is going to be talking about textiles on the 24th with us. He's also done past programs on Japanese gardens and Japanese ceramics, as well as Japanese aesthetics, which we have videos on our YouTube channel for all of those programs. And then we have one of our biggest events of the year is our Innovation Awards, which will take place at Stanford on July 17th and have awards to some truly innovative Japanese and US companies. A great program focusing on innovation in Japan and the United States. It's open to the public. We would encourage you to attend that if you are interested in innovation generally and the topic of US-Japan startups and success. And then we have other programs throughout the summer. So please check out our website, www.usajapan.org. We have a regular email blast and newsletter that we send out, and we would love to see you at some of our programs in the future. With that, let's bring the program for today to a close. Thank everybody for attending, and we will continue our conversation with our guests for a few more minutes if people want to stay online and ask a question that we weren't able to get to in the course of the program. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Take, Joy, and Eric for joining us today, and we'll continue the conversation for those who want to stay online.
Building bridges between the United States and Japan since 1905. Japan Society.